Hey everyone, Mia here from Resonance Astrology and welcome to my channel. This video today is going to focus on Mercury squaring Jupiter. To be exact, Mercury in Libra squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So the square is happening in cardinal signs. And both Mercury and Jupiter are highlighted, and both of these forces are known to kind of be opposing each other. Just because even if you think of the signs that are Mercury ruled and that are Jupiter ruled, well, they are opposing each other in the zodiac sign. So Gemini, one Mercury ruled sign, is opposing Sagittarius, a Jupiter ruled sign, and Virgo, a Mercury ruled sign, is opposing Pisces, another Jupiter ruled sign. So there is something between both of these forces that does seem a bit opposite, and yet I do think they are very much coming together and fusing together in a beautiful way. And this video is pretty spontaneous. It is very much channeled, although I will say they are, what I'm gonna say is a bit based on notes that I made, that I actually found that I made in 2021, so way back, but it just felt very fitting. And sometimes I do think it's very good to draw inspiration from past things, right? Especially if it's things that were already channeled sometimes once again. And it's been a while since I sat down here and since I spoke in such a manner. And hopefully I can do this more often. It's hard to predict, right? Sometimes it just comes up and it just feels like I'm birthing something. Which feels very fitting for Jupiter in Cancer, to say the least. But since this week generally is such a mercurial week, maybe you didn't watch the weekly overview. That's completely fine. Today we have Mercury squaring Jupiter, as already mentioned. And then on Friday we have Mercury opposing Chiron. So there are some wounds about to happen and about to come up, and that is also what we're going to talk today. It's almost going to be something like a 5 things to watch out for, but not in any specific order or anything like that. And then on Saturday we also have Venus in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury, coming close and conjoining the South Node. So I do think there is almost collectively something that is going on with releasing wounds around communication, around like truth. And I'm gonna say a few things about truth afterwards. Definitely triggers arising, especially I would say around groups, especially even more so with Venus, I would say around sisterhood. But it could be any sort of groups, because Venus is the connective tissue of the universe and it is genuinely seen as the force that kind of works with like people coming together. And so there is something in the air, I truly feel, that has to do with just communities and people coming together, groups of people, and what we truly need, what we truly want. And I think Mercury in Libra, there is a strong sense of justice and of truth and of like, I need to stand up for what is right and what is, and speak out if something is wrong. That is completely fine. We have to be careful here of, what is projection and what is something that is generally going to come up. And with Jupiter in Cancer, there is a real opportunity to think about our needs and what we want to contribute and how we want to feel. And also like in hierarchical measurements, I think a lot of people, there is a real urge to have a village, to have a community, but I think a lot of people forget what it actually takes to be a villager in a village, and that a lot of that involves sitting in the discomfort of being with people that are probably not always going to share the same opinion as you. Maybe you're not even going to maybe fully respect their ways or what they think or how they act or how they cook or whatever, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be an appreciation there. Because I think a true village, has room for everybody to fit in some sort of way. Now, is that easy? Heck no. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And I don't think we should pretend that it is easy. I think division always seems nice, but I think especially when we get closer to each other, and when there is like an intimacy that is forming, that's when it can get rough. And I do think that is kind of the point right now that we are all experiencing collectively. Because if someone is expressing their truth, it might trigger us in some sort of way. And that is completely fine. The goal of life is not to not have any triggers, or if you are already on your healing journey, it's not to surpass some sort of level where you're fine and chill. Like, the absence of pain and triggers doesn't mean that you are leading a fulfilling and happy life. I think true happiness, if I can word it that way, or just alignment with life itself and with seasons and with transits, what this channel is kind of really about, This channel at its core and my views on astrology and how I want to practice astrology is in relationship to the planets. And when something like that is coming up, because what is coming up is pretty much from personal experience right now, is that I'm meeting the planets and I'm like, oh, this is how Mercury-Jupiter is showing up in my life. And I'm sure collectively it's showing up like that for quite a few people. And this is how we connect to the universe, how we connect to the cosmos. That's actually the better word. Cosmos is a better word. And that is really the main point here, is that we look at these things and that we bridge the gap. That we bridge the gap between lived experience and basically doing alchemy. Basically being like, that what is happening down here, as above, so below. That is literally as above, so below. When you can find that in your conversation, in a mundane, maybe not even mundane, but in a conversation, you realize, oh, that's Mercury-Jupiter showing up in my life by somebody expressing their truth, that maybe being a bit triggering perhaps, and renegotiation of needs and values and wants and what we truly need and what position we are holding. This for me is astrology at its best. When we connect it to our day-to-day lived experiences, because that's how it shows up mostly. Astrology, sometimes, yes, for sure, it shows up in these grand gestures, and sometimes astrology shows up in our life as something major. And maybe you're having these at the angles if you're any sort of rising sign is cardinal. So if you are a Libra, a Cancer, Capricorn, or an Aries, almost forgot the last one, then it's going to show up in your angles. So this might be very loud. But, even I don't have a cardinal sign as my rising sign, and it's showing up pretty loudly. So it always really depends. And I think that's the beauty of astrology, when we notice these small nuances. And so, Jupiter ruling over something like faith, and Mercury basically ruling over something like logic. And give me just 1 second. There was another note that I wanted to pull up. Yes, because again, these things that we know to be true because of logic, which is Mercury, especially Mercury in Libra, very diplomatic, are just theories at the end of the day. They're just theories. Science also is just a theory that was created by another human. So at the end of the day, what is truth and logic in the grand scheme of things? Question mark. Metaphorical question mark. Truth and logic is just as subjective, or just as changeable as opinion and faith, or as opinion and the things that we don't know. So in this instance, use your logic to help support the things that seem illogical and allow it to give yourself faith. I think this is when they both come together in a good manner. Let's not forget, Jupiter is in an exalted position right now. Mercury in Libra doesn't have a specific dignity, but Mercury in Libra is still in a mutual reception with Venus in Virgo. So there is basically all of these three planets are kind of communicating together right now. So, I guess basically faith needs logic just as much as logic needs faith. So your logic is what will impregnate your faith, and your logic is what will implant your faith, and that faith, once it is impregnated, will give you the ability to create. That is what is going to help birth the future. And this reality that you see, this dream in your mind, essentially. And I think it's really, we can put this image of the magician here into play, because the magician card in tarot, I think it's bringing these elements together, right? It's when you begin to weave that wand, when you understand that not everything has to make perfect sense to be logical, and not everything that is truth is ultimately just fate, that no, both of these things can exist. Both of these things can absolutely exist. And now let me get back to the first note that I wanted to share here. Yes, because I think, again, with Mercury opposing Chiron, there are wounds about to be brought up. And again, as already mentioned before, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because oftentimes it gives us the opportunity, conflict gives us opportunity to actually get to the root of something that is nagging us, and maybe to even get to the root of what is the truth, truth for you. And, truth, again, I already mentioned it before, it's viable, right? Like it's changeable, it's mutable. I think truth is something that we can have a relationship with. And if we invite that into our lives, to have a relationship with truth, and we don't treat it as something that is like the truth and it's up there and it's this eternal thing that is like completely static, I think we've lost a point. But if we see truth as something that arises and that we can have a relationship with, and that is something that is changeable, something that is malleable, and we begin to treat it with curiosity instead of like distrust and like, oh, this is a truth and this is kind of it, even for ourselves. But the way that you react to somebody sharing their truth says a lot about how you are obviously experiencing this in your life as well. If somebody's sharing something and you're like, oh, this is it, this is their truth, and you don't allow themselves to be like, oh, they're just a person, they're also going to go through the notions, they're going to go through the emotions, and maybe the next day they're going to wake up and what they express in that moment might not be the whole truth yet. So again, truth is changeable, truth is malleable. Sometimes we also have to look at ourselves, because we might have a hard time accepting that within ourselves. I know at least I do sometimes, to be completely honest and truthful and transparent here. I often have this issue of expressing myself and then feeling like, oh, that's what I said is like set in stone. And it's like, no, it's not. I am allowed to change my opinion. I'm allowed to change my truth, because truth is something that is malleable. And if we want to go, full on spiritual of like the truth, only God knows that. Or the universe or spirit or however you want to call it. Whatever feels fine for you. The divine mother, right? She knows the truth. She knows the actual truth of things. Sometimes more than we do. Because she is the force that is revealing and concealing with us. And she is the one that knows what the truth is always within our hearts, because she is the one that is our heart, that is the pulse, that is the heartbeat when you put your hand on your heart, the pulse of life. That is the Divine Mother. And she knows what is genuinely truthful in your heart, sometimes more than you do, sometimes more than we all do. And so I think a lot of it is about listening to her. Because I think then we will find a truth that is rooted in love. And love just is. Love just is. And now I certainly know there's a lot of projections we put onto love. All the time. I do this all the time as well. I'm not above that. But love in its essence as a force, without like coupling it to relationships and bad experiences and all of that, it just is. Just is. Like our heart that is just beating. Do we need to, project anything? Does our heart stop beating just because we've had a bad experience? Does our heart betray us or leave us? Like, no, it doesn't. Our heart is like, I'm still going to beat for you. I'm still going to be here. And I think that's this essence of the Divine Mother, of this like underlying truth that is always going to be truthful. We just have to be careful to not conflate it with our truth, because our truth, that is the part that is malleable, changeable. But even within ourselves, the way we have a relationship to the Divine Mother is also going to fluctuate and change. But yet she's going to be the one that stands and is firm and is never going to betray us. It's our heart that's always going to be, obviously not always. There's going to be one last heartbeat and eventually. But you know what I'm trying to say here, okay? So yes, and now I do want to get a bit more into the note that I wrote here, just because I think it makes a lot of sense with everything that's going on right now. And we're going to talk about reactions, because reactions often limit what something, an experience, for example, can become in the flow of time. And that's not actually the definition of freedom. We want something to be an experience that gives us more freedom. Then we have to allow for experiences to be free to express themselves, because experiences are like living entities that we are having a relationship with. The reaction is oftentimes something that puts an experience in a box and then limits what it can become. So reactions aren't bad per se, and they are also inevitable. We cannot deny the fact that we react to a trigger, nor should we deny the realness of our reaction, because it is our momentary, true lived experience, right? There's also something about that, about like being honest in the moment of like, that was triggering, that was hurtful, and that is the current truth that I'm experiencing right now in the body. And we can also be very Mercury and Libra about it, of just being like, my heart's beating, my chest is tightening, I'm shaking, I am feeling like I want to kick the door, and just like naming that. And then hopefully, obviously, doing somatic exercises to actually release that trigger, because we don't want to hold on to that. So again, we just have to remember that we are not our reaction, and that the truth of an experience doesn't live in reaction alone, because we never really know if an event is fortune or misfortune. We only know our ever-changing reactions to ever-changing events. That part is from a quote, by the way. We have to remember this truth to let an experience unfold in all its dimensions and truths it wants to show us. I think it's very wise to put truths in a multiplicated form here, because I think there's many different ways, and even many different ways that we can relate to a specific experience. Right? Have you ever just noticed that when you sleep over something, you might feel different about it? Well, that's pretty much that, and sometimes we need that. I think, especially this week, if something comes up, I think it's just wise to know, okay, I can regulate alone. Where can I co-regulate with other people, and where can this lead to something that is for the greater good of everyone involved? So yeah, if we push things through, forcing things to happen at a certain time, which is usually our attachments of believing we have to be over something or someone, after 3 months, or believing we have to have it figured out at 25, or believing something has to happen right now, getting upset over someone, for example, not immediately texting you back in the way that you would like to. If we push these things through, they usually tear at the fabric of the experience itself. It doesn't allow for an experience to unfold and shape us in a situation, which is important, which is the part of alchemy, of transformation, We have to let go of the attachment of what we believe the outcome of something should be, and enjoy the art of letting things unfold and transform and reveal themselves in divine timing. And that's what I'm saying, give yourself room and space to relate to truth differently in a different way. Perhaps you're having an argument with your partner. Allow yourselves to carry these out for multiple days, because multiple things might be coming up day after day. It's not just a one time we talked about it and it's done. Okay? So give yourself room to carry out things. Mercury in Libra, I'm telling you guys, Libra in itself very much carries the judge quality. And courtroom things also usually carry on for a longer period of time, and that's what we need to allow ourselves to. To just let it happen over a period of time, and not forcing because we think, we should have, like other people talk about it one time and then it's good and done for them, or gosh, I'm so stupid because I'm not over this and it's been day 5. No, maybe you're not. Maybe there is a divine timing and unfolding of this whole process that just takes a while. And just because you think something needs to happen right now in a specific sort of way, doesn't mean that that's actually what needs to happen and what's beneficial for everything and everyone to unfold. And that's Jupiter in Cancer. Having faith and having trust in the process of things unfolding when they need to unfold, and letting us go through the notion of emotion. Because let's not forget, Jupiter in the Cancer realm, in the realm of the moon, a lot about emotions, a lot about fluctuations. And being okay with that, being okay with riding the waves of emotions. And instead of identifying ourselves with our emotions or with our triggers and feeling like, I am that anger, basically detaching ourselves kind of from it and realizing it is something that is flowing through me. It is an experience that is showing up and that I'm curious about, and I'm going to continue being curious about it and seeing how is it showing up tomorrow? How is that anger showing up in a few hours? How is that grief showing up if I sleep a night over it? Am I still in the same relationship with it before I went to bed as I am now in the morning? So, of course, there also comes a time where we must push through an experience, and this is usually when we step back so much from taking responsibility that we do not at all want to get involved in experience of the fear of reactions. We isolate ourselves in a safe bubble, so to say, and avoid any form of even small hardship or potential experience that could trigger a reaction. This is also another form of not trusting to let things unfold, because they physically cannot, because there are no new experiences being made. So we also got to be careful here that we don't retreat into our shell. That is a potential of Cancerian energy. It can be very tribal, it can be very communal. At the same time, Cancerian energy can also be very, very retractive and isolate itself when things are too much. But if we are just static and we are just going through the things on ourselves, through ourselves, we are not really, there is a relationship that is always happening with us. And that is one form of relationship. But everything that involves a community, it also involves other people. And you have to realize that just because you went through something, you still have to communicate that to other people. Otherwise, they have no freaking clue what is going on with you. Like, they're not mind readers. People are not mind readers. If you change your truth or your opinion on something and you don't communicate that, you know, you gotta be ready to be fazed by people being like, when the hell did that happen? What the hell, like, you know, what the hell happened with Sarah after she slept the night over everything? And we also limit ourselves from that potential alchemy process if we avoid experiences altogether, because that's where a lot of the healing lies. A lot of us have wounds around relationships, which, again, not surprising. That's so going to come up with Mercury opposing Chiron. And there's so much potential for healing in and through conflict, because of a lot of the wounds we do have come from relationships, and things that come from relationships can only get healed in relationships. There are things you can heal on your own, and that you have to heal on your own, and that you have to take responsibility on your own, which is, again, for example, for your triggers. If something is triggering you and you realize, I'm in a trauma loop, I'm very confused right now, I'm very angry now, yes, it is absolutely your responsibility to be like, I'm gonna step away right now. I might maybe not express everything right now to the group or to the person, just because maybe I will regret it. And don't underestimate the power of words, okay? They can linger. So this is your responsibility to journal, to sit down, to do whatever. You know, yesterday I was like walking outside and kicking a wall because I was like, I really want to express things, but I know I'm confused right now and it's not gonna land in the way. I have to first like go inwards and fully understand this disruption on my own, and then I can come to it with the people. But I must come to it with people. I must take also the responsibility to then go to the group or go to the partner or go to the relationship and actually communicate what has been going on. Because if you isolate yourself and then you have no witnesses, that's going to reaffirm the belief in yourself that you are the only person that's got your back and nobody else is ever going to get your back. You have to be brave enough and have faith, Jupiter, that there are people that are going to meet you, and you have to sift through the discomfort of expressing that and perhaps not being met. But the braveness, I'm telling you, will pay off. Okay, currently Mars is in Scorpio, and everything that you do out of your comfort zone and out of braveness, that will expand. I'm looking over here because I have this jar here. Guys, I have this jar here with a quote of Anais Nin that says, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. That is my jar of all the things that I did this year so far that involved me being courageous about it and me being brave about it and stepping out of my comfort zone to do it. And my life expanded so much. And that is the beautiful trine of Mars in Scorpio and Jupiter in Cancer. So we need to find balance between these two, you know, pushing through, not pushing through. And there's time and space for both. Your body will know in which phase or lesson you're currently in. Your body holds the key to your information. And sometimes we can conflate trauma responses with intuition. But I think this is what we are currently facing collectively. And I'm going to tell you this. If you're confused, it's a trauma response. If you feel extremely angry, if there are any sort of like really dark thoughts popping up, probably a trauma loop. If there is, you're going to probably feel it in your heart, okay? Intuition is usually pretty calm. And again, love just is. It just is. And you're going to know that when you're speaking. You're going to be able to speak from a calmer manner. And the words are going to feel like they're coming out of your heart. which is honestly what I'm kind of feeling right now. And this is not how I felt yesterday. And it's really a completely different experience. If your thoughts are racing and jumping, trauma. 100% trauma, okay? Something is being activated right now. And so again, Libra is always about finding the balancing act. And I don't think the point of Libra is to find the balance. I think it's very naive to think that ever in life we're going to find the perfect balance ever. We might step into some sort of balance for a brief moment or time, but everything is constantly changing and shape-shifting and evolving and adapting. And balance and truth, once again, are not static forces. They are movable forces, changeable forces. And I think this is what I'm going to leave you at for today. I'm super curious to hear your thoughts, opinions about all of this, how you are dealing with everything going on right now. So leave it down in the comments if you feel like it. And if you don't feel like talking in an open online space, you can also always DM me, okay? Like I'm totally open to reply to your direct messages on Instagram. And my Instagram is also going to be always linked down in the description below. Sometimes I make like posts about what I'm talking here in a more like digestible form that you can also save, right? Sometimes that helps me personally if I have a post and I can save it and go through it with words that I can reread over again. So I might do that as well. So it's always worth following me on Instagram. And if you enjoyed this, consider perhaps subscribing if you're new here, if you're not already subscribed. I would highly appreciate you. This is, again, the essence of this channel, of my astrology practice, is bridging people to have a relationship with the planets through day-to-day life. So this is what I have for you guys. I wish you a wonderful midweek and ahead, and a wonderful Mercury square Jupiter, and a hopefully amazingly alchemized, liberating Mercury opposing Chiron, and beautiful Venus conjoining South Node moment as well. So I love you very much and see you soon. Bye.